Hello everybody,
You guys already know.
from
hop on some
here,
Fortnite. You already know.
we are reacting
Downloading Fortnite right now.
to
About to hop on in
Story
about
Booth.
6 minutes.
He gets excited for Fortnite. Well, let's get the video started.
Fortnite, you already know. Downloading Fortnite right now. About to hop on in about 6 minutes. Whoever wants to play, I'll send my username. Fortnite, you already know. Downloading Fortnite right now. About to hop on in about 6 minutes. Whoever wants to play, I'll send my username. Fortnite, you already know. Downloading Fortnite right now. About to hop on in about 6 minutes. Whoever wants to play, I'll send my username. Fortnite, you already know.
And something went terribly bad. He did something to me very bad I did not want to do. I didn't want to tell my mom because he told me to not tell no one. And if I did, he would probably threaten me and hurt my family. So I kept quiet. My mom says, "What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing, it's okay." So then, after days and days, I've been worrying, trying not to tell no one because I was scared. At every school, I could not read, I could not talk that way, and they would be like, "What's wrong?" And it's like, "Oh, it's nothing. It's just that I'm kind of tired." Till one day, I told my mom the truth. She was like, "Oh, sweetie, is this true?" And I said, "Yes, I'm scared." And I started crying and crying because I had let it out. It kept bothering me so much, I had to let it out. It was like a big knot, so I had to tie it. When I told my mom, we had to go to the police station. They asked everything what he did. So I did tell them until they told me they would investigate him and that he was denying it. So I went to court then. The court was very scary because I had to look at him and my lawyer. The lawyer asked me questions, but I had to say yes or not like that. I was very scared. I was shaking and shaking and shaking till I dropped. It was kind of scary, but ever since I did the court, I let it out and it felt good to let it out. It felt like I was not in pain no more. And so I'm putting a bad guy in jail.
Okay.
Oh my god, and we totally jumped off the cliff and had to swim all the way ashore because the dog chased us all the way to the end.
Okay, we have time for like 2 more videos. We're gonna watch this one.
At Ally Bank, get an interest rate of up to 20 times the national average. Ally, do it right.
When I was in grade 8, I had a best friend named Chloe. We hung out on the swings at recess, we sat together at lunch and traded sandwiches from time to time, and we always took the same bus home after school. We were like 2 peas in a pod, rarely separated. Well, that soon changed when Chloe got a boyfriend halfway through the year. He was a boy named Tom that was known as one of the school's biggest bullies. Everyone was extremely intimidated by him and tried to stay on his good side. Once, I had seen him throw a kid's backpack over the roof of the school for no reason. He just seemed to take pleasure in ruining people's days. So when Chloe asked me to sit with him and his friends at lunch every day, I couldn't say no. I didn't want to lose her as a friend, and I didn't want to upset him, so I pretended to support their relationship, even though I knew Tom was a bad guy. Well, one day a new girl named Jenna was introduced to our class. She looked very shy and nervous and had no one to sit with at lunch, so she sat by herself. I timidly asked Tom and his friends if I could invite her to sit with us, and they instantly started laughing, as if I had told them a hilarious joke. Tom then picked up a couple chips from his lunch and threw them over at her table where she was quietly reading a book. She looked startled but didn't try to stand up for herself. I remember feeling so bad for her in that moment, but I didn't have the courage to say anything. For the next week, Tom and his friends would bother her during lunchtime. They would roll up pieces of paper to throw in her hair and would constantly call her the weird loner girl. I was so shocked that Chloe was allowing her boyfriend to treat another human being this way. And I started feeling really embarrassed that I was sitting with these horrible bullies. Because by not standing up for Jenna, I looked like one too. So the next day I finally decided to make a change, even if I knew it would impact me negatively. So instead of sitting with Chloe and Tom, I went and sat beside Jenna. She looked really happy to finally have someone to keep her company. But right away, I noticed that Tom and his friends were giving me dirty looks and whispering to each other. And it didn't take long for them to start treating me the way they did her. Crumpled paper was thrown at me, and I was beginning to be called Weird Girl Number 2. But all I can think was, at least Jenna isn't going through this alone. I finally decided that this was enough and took Jenna with me to see the principal. We tried the best we could to tell her what was happening, but she told us that if there was no proof of bullying, she couldn't do anything. Whenever a teacher was around, Tom would act normal, and the minute she left the room, for a few minutes, he would continue harassing us. It was a very difficult time, but every time Jenna would tell me how thankful she was for my friendship, it was so worth it. So one day I heard that there was a hate page online about Jenna that was started by Tom and his friends. It had an unbelievable amount of likes and follows on it. They would take pictures of her and post them with terrible captions. They would quote things that she said and gossip about some of the things she did during the day. And as unfortunate and sick as it was finally the proof we needed to give to the principal. The police actually ended up getting involved, and Jenna was never picked on again after that. I'm very proud of myself for stepping out of my comfort zone to stand up for her, because if I didn't, I'm not sure if she would have had the confidence to do it herself. Some people need that extra push from someone else that is willing to support them. So if you ever see someone being bullied, don't just be a bystander, do something about it. Your actions could greatly change someone's life for the better.
And his Fortnite third.
Oh my god, we totally jumped off the cliff all the way ashore because the dog shit is all the way to
Guys, I got a secret video. So I'm gonna pause it. A second. Well, sorry, they couldn't find the secret video.
What did you say?
I couldn't find the secret video. What just happened? Okay. Wait. I would think I'm watching this video, so let's watch it.
Everybody ready?
Everyone is talking about widows. It's robustly entertaining. Always keep your eye on the dark. It's 5 stars and certified fresh.
Let's go.
Widows, rated R, Friday.
No one knows when they'll reach the end of the road and what kind of death they may be faced with. It could happen in an instant without warning, or it could be a long, dragged-out process, leaving a person with plenty of time to reflect on their life. Samuel Butler, an English author who lived in the 1800s, once said, "If life must not be taken too seriously, then so neither must death." This quote brings us aptly to today's topic, about an end that may be one of the better ways to exit the world. Welcome to this episode of the Infographic Show, Death by Laughing. A friend tells you a joke and you laugh. Then they tell you a really funny joke and you laugh so hard you fall over. And then there's the funniest joke of all, the one that made you laugh yourself to death. This is, of course, just a figure of speech. I mean, if you had really died laughing, you wouldn't be able to tell people about it, as you'd be lying 6 feet under in a wooden box. But can you really die from laughing? Actually, if you laugh hard enough, then it is possible to kill yourself. It can happen due to stress on the body when in hysterical laughter. Some of the ways include ruptured brain aneurysm, collapsed lung leading to suffocation, heart attack, strangulated hernia which cuts off blood flow to vital organs, asphyxiation, seizure, or stroke. None of those circumstances sound very funny at all. So what about some real cases? Ones where people have found themselves on the wrong side of the joke. When we started to research online, we were surprised to find there were more than we had expected. We've looked at some of the more interesting cases to see what was discovered about the cause of death, beyond the joke that got these people laughing in the first place. Let's take a look. 5. Sisyphus was an ancient Greek philosopher, a huge man. He lived more than 200 years before Christ and was known for his work in Stoicism, an ancient school of philosophy of personal ethics. This meant Sisyphus valued the qualities of his mind over everyday sensory pleasures, which made the story of his death somewhat comical in itself, as it involved plenty of alcohol, beverages, and a random donkey. It was at the 143rd Olympiad, where the drink would have been flowing. There are two accounts of the story. In the first, Sisyphus was legless on strong wine and keeled over from laughter. Or was it too much wine? The second story is a bit more dramatic. Having seen a donkey chomping on figs, Sisyphus decided to give the creature some wine to wash the fruit down. He found the incident so hilarious that he laughed himself to his grave. It's hard to properly verify such an old story, but it's certainly an interesting one. 4. Next, we have the odd case of Damnoen Sainum, a 52-year-old ice cream truck driver from Bangkok in Thailand, who died while laughing in his sleep. Yes, you heard me right, in his sleep. Thailand newspaper The Nation reported that Sainum laughed for about 2 minutes before stopping breathing. His wife tried to wake him up, but he continued to laugh. The autopsy suggested that a heart attack might have been the final cause of death. I've never seen a case like this, but it's possible that a person could have a heart seizure while laughing or crying too hard in their sleep, said Dr. Somchai Chakrabat, Deputy Director of the Mental Health Department. 3. Thomas Tommy Frederick Cooper lived from 1921 to 1984. He was a British comedian and magician who wore a red fez, which is a red cylindrical hat with a tassel, named after the Moroccan city of Fez. Cooper was a big man, standing at 6 feet 4 inches and weighing more than 210 pounds. On the 15th of April 1984, this British comedian collapsed with a heart attack on live national television. It may not have been technically the laughing that killed Cooper, but he was cracking jokes at the time and surrounded by laughter as he was on stage in the midst of a comedy routine at Her Majesty's Theatre in London. The live audience and thousands of TV viewers thought it was part of his act, and so waited for him to get up. But it was soon clear that something was wrong. 2. To more recent times, in 2013, 22-year-old Mangesh Bogal visited a multiplex along with his girlfriend in the state of Vasai in India to watch a Hindi comedy called Grand Masti. Everyone loves a comedy, but Bogal loved it so much that he laughed himself all the way to a heart attack. Bogal was rushed to Cardinal Gracias Hospital, but died before the ambulance could get him to the emergency room. Rakesh Shah, director of KT Vision, explained that during the incident, I was at the box office when one of our employees informed me about the incident. The youth was with his girlfriend, and they were watching the 6 p.m. show of Grand Masti. Those who sat beside the youth said he was laughing his heart out. According to Indian newspaper DNA, a police official from Manikpur police station said that a case of accidental death has been registered. 1. And finally, there's the case of UK citizen Alex Mitchell, who suffered heart failure after viewing the Ecky Thump episode of The Goodies in 1975. Maybe you've not heard of The Goodies. They're all made up of 3 British comedians, Tim Brooke Taylor, Graham Garden, and Bill Oddie, who wrote and performed comedy shows during the 1970s and early 1980s. And funny enough to cause heart failure, it seems. But this mystery further unfolded in 2012, when Mitchell's 23-year-old granddaughter, Lisa Cork, had a near-fatal heart attack at home on the Isle of Sheppey in the UK. She was diagnosed with long QT syndrome, which doctors believe also could have caused Mitchell's death. There are just a few cases of how some people have laughed themselves to death. The ones we looked at stretch 2,000 plus years. One thing that seems certain is that it's not actually the laughing and joking that causes someone's life to end, but instead an underlying medical condition. So if you're fit and healthy, it's probably safe to keep laughing hard at your favorite jokes. Do you know of other strange and unlikely ways people have kicked the proverbial bucket? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video, What Happens When You Die. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Infographic Show. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe.
Switch to US Cellular and get $600 off the latest smartphones. No trade-in required.
No, I am not looking at that.
Don't get knocked out. Switch to US Cellular.
This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make it with Squarespace. What happens when you finally kick the bucket, so to speak? Despite our mostly science-grounded views on death these days, it seems many of us believe in life after it. In 2014, UK citizens were polled by The Telegraph, and just under 60% of respondents said they believe some part of us lives on. In the US, still a very Christian nation, Pew Research in 2015 asked people what happened after you die. The survey found that 72% of Americans believed you go to heaven, which was described as a place where people who have led good lives are eternally rewarded. 54% of US adults replied that they believed in hell, which was described as a place where people who have led bad lives and die without being sorry are eternally punished. With that in mind, welcome to this episode of the infographic show, What Happens When You Die. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button so that you can be part of our notification squad. It seems a lot of people do believe that after death we might be ensconced in some cloud-strewn paradise, or conversely, if we haven't adhered to the ethics prescribed to us by our chosen religion or denomination of that religion, we might be faced with eternal hellfire and the prospect of groveling to a bearded red man who hardly ever puts down his pitchfork. But let's start with some empirical realism and what actually happens to the body when we die. Physicians know you're dead because the heart stops beating and there is no longer any electrical activity in your brain. Brain death equals dead, although machines can keep you going a little bit longer. You can also have what's called a cardiac death, which means the heart stops beating and blood no longer flows through your body. The strange, even wonderful thing is, people that have suffered cardiac death but have been brought back to life have said they were aware of what was going on around them. Others have talked about walking towards a light in such a near-death experience. You can be brought back from what we call clinical death, but you only have a grace period of about 4 to 6 minutes. But let's say you get to the light and pass through. This is what we call biological death. Game over, the final whistle, dead as a dodo. This is where it gets kind of undignified, but what do you care? You're dead. Once you're definitely no longer with us, your muscles relax, and this means your sphincter will too, meaning that triple whopper and large fries you had for lunch will spill out of you. The gas you have in you may also leak out and cause a stink. The same goes for the pee you've got in your bladder. So dying, not surprisingly, is a bit of a messy affair. And men, you might even ejaculate. As for women, you may give birth after you have died if you were pregnant, which is something called coffin birth. It doesn't happen often though. Instead of pushing, it's the gases in the abdomen that squeeze the newborn into the world. As the body gets rid of what is trapped inside, noises may be emitted from your mouth as air escapes. Nurses and people working close to dead bodies have regularly reported hearing very alive-sounding moans and groans coming from dead bodies. You may twitch, but this doesn't mean there is life in you. These are just muscle contractions. You could also soon get an erection if you died lying on your stomach and the blood flowed down there. All your blood will pool to a certain area of your body. This is called livor mortis, and it's the reason parts of you will have that dark purple color you have seen on TV. These are the lovely things that can happen quite shortly after you go. With no blood flowing through your body, it will begin to cool down, known as algor mortis, or simply death chill. It will keep cooling until it is the same temperature as your surroundings. You will become stiff within about 2 to 6 hours, and this we call rigor mortis. This is because calcium is getting into your muscle cells. Cells break down without blood flow, and this leads to bacteria growth, and that's why you start to decompose. You may look like your hair or your nails have grown, but that isn't the case. What is happening is that your skin is receding, giving the impression of growth. The skin will loosen too, and blisters will appear on the body. The next stage is putrefaction, when bacteria and microorganisms start feasting on you. You'll soon start to stink as bad as anything you could have imagined while you were alive. One person described the smell as rotten eggs, feces, and a used toilet left out for a month times 1,000. It is unholy. Soon everything that is soft becomes liquefied, with things like bones, cartilage, and hair remaining strong. You're already well on your way to decomposing by the time you are being put in the ground, but if embalmed and buried, decomposition could be a slow process. Left above ground, you'll be a liquefied mess within about a month, feasted on by insects.
What just happened?
The earth. We should add the rate of decomposition depends on all manner of factors, too many to list here, but we think you get the picture. While some people, all your blood will pool to a certain area of your body. This is called livor mortis, and it's the reason parts of you will have that dark purple color you have seen on TV. These are the lovely things that can happen quite shortly after you go. With no blood flowing through your body, it will begin to cool down, known as algor mortis, or simply death chill. It will keep cooling until it is the same temperature as your surroundings. You will become stiff within about 2 to 6 hours, and this we call rigor mortis. This is because calcium is getting into your muscle cells. Cells break down without blood flow, and this leads to bacteria growth, and that's why you start to decompose. You may look like your hair or your nails have grown, but that isn't the case. What is happening is that your skin is receding, giving the impression of growth. The skin will loosen too, and blisters will appear on the body. The next stage is putrefaction, when bacteria and microorganisms start feasting on you. You'll soon start to stink as bad as anything you could have imagined while you were alive. One person described the smell as rotten eggs, feces, and a used toilet left out for a month times 1,000. It is unholy. Soon everything that is soft becomes liquefied, with things like bones, cartilage, and hair remaining strong. You're already well on your way to decomposing by the time you are being put in the ground, but if embalmed and buried, decomposition could be a slow process. Left above ground, you'll be a liquefied mess within about a month, feasted on by insects, maggots, plants, and animals. Underground, some experts say it might take 8 to 12 years before you are reduced to nothing but a skeleton. After around 50 years, even your bones will become part of the earth. We should add the rate of decomposition depends on all manner of factors, too many to list here, but we think you get the picture. While some people report that their near-death experience was a scene to behold, that's not always the case. One person writing on Reddit said his experience was as follows. It was just black emptiness, no thoughts, no consciousness, nothing. Is there really something else? Irish empiricist philosopher George Berkeley was so hell-bent on knowing what happens after death, or those moments during clinical death, that he actually hanged himself to the point of death with a friend nearby ready to cut him down before he died. He believed there was something between heaven and earth, perhaps what philosophers have called the ether. The story has become lore in philosophical circles, but it's thought all Berkeley really discovered was that hanging hurts your neck. French philosopher René Descartes believed the soul was separate from the body, as many religions will tell you, and perhaps when we die, something lingers on. Friedrich Nietzsche talked about the concept of eternal recurrence, or eternal return, meaning all existence or energy in the universe has forever and will forever keep repeating itself ad infinitum. You live the same life again and again forever. Now, doesn't that make you want to live well? Here we can make similarities to the Buddhist belief of the Wheel of Samsara, wherein all souls or lives will begin a cycle again after death, except not the same exact life. Something we call reincarnation, which some people say is connected to what we sometimes call deja vu. Buddhists believe we can end this vicious cycle if we can become truly enlightened, therefore achieving nirvana. Or do we make our way to heaven after our bodies stop working, tipping our cap to St. Peter at the pearly gates, hoping he won't deny us entrance for stealing that candy bar when we went on a school trip to Niagara Falls? Will we be taken into paradise, a place replete with excellent foods and gorgeous maidens that make your dead knees go weak? Or will we simply seed the earth, our souls nothing more than a worldly fancy that took our minds off our cosmic insignificance and the feeling of futility that we sometimes experience here on terra firma? While this video was pretty grim, let's for a second step away and think about your life now and how you can make it better. If you are one of the many living people who are running a business or thinking of starting one, you probably need a website. But since we all have limited time on Earth, you don't want to spend too much time figuring out how to set everything up and then keep on worrying about maintenance. We share that mentality, and that's why we love using Squarespace. Squarespace has a huge library of beautiful designer templates so that you can be up and running within minutes. You will never again have to install, patch, or upgrade any components on your websites ever again. If you already have your domain and are hesitating about switching to Squarespace because of that, there's nothing to worry about. You can now transfer your third-party domains to Squarespace. Instead of working with multiple vendors to maintain your online presence, you are able to manage all of your domain and billing settings with Squarespace and take advantage of their easy-to-use DNS interface. Do you hear that? That's Destiny calling, and it says you need a new website, so make it with Squarespace. Check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/infographics to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Okay, so I'll give a shout out to the people who made this, and shout out to Squarespace. It's Android. Well, at the end of this video, wait, okay guys, you got me that time. You want to watch this video, don't you? I'm not going to do it for you guys. What are those things? I want to set these. Good. Wait, red? Mega Man. Wait, where's my character? Wow.
More fighters, more battles, more fun. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, only on Nintendo Switch.
Well, now I'm going to end the video. Oh. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. And, oh yeah, try not to die.